So our final conversation this week is a couch conversation. Couldn't fit in just the armchairs. But our theme this week is We Declare to You. And so we'll start with the video as we have been, but then Matt is going to engage in some conversation with some of our high school students, and we look forward to hearing what they have to say. Let's kick it off.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to introduce our panel here, and then I am going to start the only way I know how to start, which is by telling a short but ridiculous story of my childhood. So, Jack, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody where you go to school, what grade you're in, and what you're doing for spring break next week. And the microphone is over there somewhere. Got it.
I'm Jack Deutsch. I go to Godwin High School. I'm a junior, and I'm touring colleges this spring break.
Nice. All right, Ellie Blue.
I'm Ellie Blue Gherkin. I'm in 10th grade at Freeman, and I'm going to Boston for spring break.
My name is Addison Hagan. I'm a sophomore at Freeman, and I don't know what I'm doing for spring break.
Excellent. All right, do they need to be using the microphones? Okay, so got to use the microphones not for the people sitting here, but so that the video recording will pick it up. So, my story takes place when I was in 8th grade. And the idea behind this story is that, in my experience, the way that I learn about the love of God constantly changes based on where I am in my own life. So in 8th grade, I was a swimmer. And my family commuted. We lived out in the country, and we drove 30 minutes into Norfolk every day to get to school. And there was 2 people that carpooled with us. They were brother and sister, Adam and Anna Alphin. Now, they were my pastor's children. Adam was 2 years older than me. Anna was 1 year younger than I was, so she was a grade behind me. Adam was one of my best friends. Anna was my first ex-girlfriend. I don't know exactly what that means because it was a middle school relationship, but for at least 3 or 4 weeks, we were going out. And then all of a sudden, we weren't. And it was actually very unamicable. Maybe like the most awkward breakup I've ever had, because we were in middle school. Yet we had to carpool with each other. So there was a lot of sniping back and forth that happened in our carpool rides home from swim practice. So one night, their mom, Dorothy Alphin, was driving. Anna was in the front seat, and we were in an old Dodge van. So Adam and I were in the back row, and there was a lot of space between us. Now, one of the stories that I'd found out about Anna when she was younger was that she had this very petulant, self-righteous, childish response to her older siblings whenever she wanted to be mean to them. And she would look at them and say, "At least I'm going to heaven." That was her, remember, she's a pastor's daughter. She was the youngest child. She was trying to come up with what she could. So this was her thing, and her brothers and sisters made fun of her for it. So we're driving home, and there's some sort of banter that's going on back and forth. So I lean over to Adam and under my breath go, "Well, at least she's going to heaven," which did not fly very well at all. All of a sudden, the radio was turned off, and there was a, "What did you just say?" And I knew there was no good way for me to get out of this situation, so I sort of started stammering, trying to come up with some sort of answer. And my buddy Adam, who's sitting right beside me in the back, looks over and he looks up. He goes, "I'm sorry, I was being snarky, and I just said at least Anna's going to heaven." And totally took the blame for me on this one. And it apparently that had become a no-no in the house because that line had been used before. So Adam was grounded for a weekend in order to keep me out of trouble. Now, in my simplistic, or at least developing 8th grade mindset, this happened probably like around this time of the year, shortly before Easter, and I was like, whoa, Adam is my Easter picture now. Like, this guy took the blame for me. He spent 2 days in the tomb of his room, and I'm the one who doesn't get in trouble, which was just a far out experience for me that has stuck with me to this day. Because in 8th grade, that was a piece of the love of God that would resonate with me. I don't know if it would resonate with me now. I think I'd probably feel so guilty about the fact that someone was getting in trouble for me that there's no way I would have let that happen. But in 8th grade, that was exactly what I needed to hear. So, one of the things that I love about working with middle schoolers and high schoolers is remembering the different ways that we get to learn about the love of God and then express the love of God to those around us. And the way that y'all get to process this is different than the way that the rest of us in here, Tyler being the exception, get to process it. As you grow older, your walls change, your processes change, the way that you relate to things change. And so you guys have a neat, fresh take on what the love of God is that will be great to be able to share. So, all of y'all went on the South Dakota mission trip this summer, right? Jack, what was your favorite part of the trip this summer?
I enjoyed touring. I mean, I like Vacation Bible School.
Yeah.
But I also like just driving around and seeing the different parts of South Dakota because I've never been there. And
Yeah.
It's a different part of the country, and it was just fun to explore.
Nice. Is that microphone on? No. Here, let me see that real quick. There's a button right here. It is on. Okay. This one you got to hold close to your mouth when you're talking into it.
Okay.
All right. Ellie Blue, what was your favorite part of South Dakota?
My favorite part was probably going to Mount Rushmore
Yeah.
because it was just so beautiful. Like, I don't know, it was just breathtaking to see it. When you walked over the hill, it was just there. And then I liked seeing like all the different land and stuff because like we saw like plateaus and stuff which
Yeah.
we don't have like here, so that was neat.
All right, Addison, your favorite part?
I think my favorite part was playing Foursquare with the kids.
Nice.
That were there, just because like, I mean, it was part of Vacation Bible School, but it wasn't really like us trying to like not force anything upon them, but like, just like talk about Jesus, but like it was easy just to relate to the kids when we were playing, just because it was a game that we all knew.
Yeah. And there was no agenda to it. It was just like, let's play Foursquare.
Yeah.
And let's see how long we can play Foursquare, because these kids are starting to drive us crazy. That was my position in it. I won't speak for them with that. Now, before we went on the trip, had any of y'all been on a mission trip before? No. Were you expecting it to be fun, or were you expecting it to be hard?
I was expecting it to be hard.
Both? Both.
Yeah.
Was it hard?
No,
Oh, okay.
I don't think so.
Was it hard for you guys? Huh, it was hard for me. So well done to you guys. All right, Addison, why wasn't it hard? Like, what about it made it more fun and enjoyable and less hard?
Your planning was great.
Oh, yeah, wow.
But I mean, the kids made it easy just to talk to them because, I mean, they're not really that much different than us, just that they have different circumstances for growing up.
Yeah.
So,
it wasn't that big of a cultural divide.
yeah.
Yeah. Jack, what about you? What made it fun and not hard?
Well, everything just kind of flowed into place. I was a CIT a couple summers ago.
That's
so-
a counselor in training,
Yeah.
for anybody who's not sure.
So I was used to talking with kids, and they all acted like just normal. So it was easy to kind of connect with them and do all the activities and games.
What about you, Ellie Blue? What made it fun and not so hard? And if you don't have a specific answer, you don't have to have one.
I mean, pretty much what they've been saying, because like it was just like hanging out with like your friends and then playing with like some kids you met there really neat. So.
Yeah.
And like blowing bubbles was fun with them.
Oh yeah, blowing bubbles was really fun. I forgot about that. And our bad tie-dye t-shirts. That was also really fun. We learned how to make tie-dye t-shirts as we went along, and the first batch of them were just awful. And eventually we figured out how to do it, and they became borderline not so awful. So when we were going out there, do y'all remember what our theme for the week was going to be? I asked that as an honest question because I'm drawing a blank right now too.
Was it God's love?
Yeah, it was God's love, right? And we did those vacation Bible school songs that we stole from the St. Mary's Vacation Bible School and that we were all very sick of before the week was over. Yeah, but so our idea was we were going to go out and talk about the love of God to these kids on the Lakota reservation. Did we do that? Do you remember? Yeah, Jack, how did we do that?
Well, just, I don't know, it comes all back to the kids, I think, again, because just showing them that you appreciate them and giving them someone to play with, just, it means the world to them because usually it's a small community that they have out there, so they don't really, I don't know, they see the same people again, so it's nice for them to expand the horizons, I guess, and just meet new people and experience new things.
Yeah. All right, so our goal, our mission was to go out there and share the love of God with them. Now, what I felt being over there was that as much as I tried to do that, the bigger thing that I got was I felt the love of God from the people that we worked with. Did y'all have a similar reaction to that?
Yeah.
Maybe? Addison, how so?
Well, I remember one day I was with Jack, and we were sitting with, I forgot her name.
Killing water.
Kills and Water.
Yeah.
Kills and Water,
Mary.
yeah.
Yeah. We were just talking to her, and she just started talking about like, or we got to somehow in the conversation just like her childhood and like how she was growing up and everything, like what she had to go through just growing up and being a kid on the reservation. And we watched a movie later, I remember, about just the hardships of their lives.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so we were talking with her, and it was just really special, just that moment by itself. But then, I guess a couple days later, she passed away because of a heart attack or something.
Yeah.
While we were still in South Dakota, so that was kind of...
It was
something.
tragic. It was
Yeah.
heartbreaking. So that's the thing for me, that situation is what I think shook my foundations and let the love of God break in. I've been and done work in areas that are extremely impoverished. There's something different about the Native American communities due to the centuries of what they've been through. But when Meredith Kills and Water passed away, watching the way that the entire community stepped up to be love for everyone around her and to be a picture of what her life was, that was the piece for me that won't leave. That was the thing that I will carry with me forever, seeing the love of God being poured out to us, these guests that they were taking care of. And granted, we were there to do some work. We were running a vacation Bible school, but they still, in this dark moment, went out of their way to make sure that we felt loved and we felt cared for. Do y'all remember that feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was profound for me. All right, so that was South Dakota, where we got to learn a decent amount of stuff about what it means to declare the love of God and have the love of God declared to us. What are we doing for our mission trip this summer? California. Ellie Blue, you want to answer this?
We're going to California.
Yes, and why are we going to California?
Well, my mom and I were watching the news one day, and we saw that like California was having a bunch of like wildfires and mudslides, and we were like, we need to like do something to help them because like they're having such a hard time right now. And so we proposed the idea to go to California and help out everybody.
And it was a brilliant idea. So the idea came from Ellie Blue. This is a organic, the idea was created by a high schooler, and that's what we're going to end up doing. What did you learn from our trip last year that you're going to apply to this summer? Did you learn anything from last year that you're going to apply to this summer? This one is a setup question. I want to see if they can think on their feet a little bit. Nope. Jack, how about you?
Well, I guess communication skills, because
On my end or on your end? Because both of those are applicable.
on my end.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know, I guess there was a lot of, because of the tragedy that happened, there was a lot of tension that happened in South Dakota. So I think that kind of broadened our view of how, society as a whole is affected by one little event. And so we have to go down to, or go across to California, understand their circumstance and do the best that we can.
Addison, you are not going to be able to join us on the trip this summer, but how would you encourage those of us who will be going to experience God's love and to declare God's love?
I think just like remember that like you're there to help the people, and just like with South Dakota, just how we were, there to help everybody, and we like did that, and it wasn't as hard as we thought it would be. And so just keeping on their mind that they're doing a good thing and it's helpful to everybody there.
Yeah. All right, last question. This got started late and we got to wrap up because we've got the Palm Sunday processional. We got a couple minutes.
Okay.
What have y'all taken home from South Dakota? Like, what ways have you incorporated some of what we did there here at home? Addison, we'll start with you. I'll set this up. Addison is going to be doing an Eagle Scout project coming up soon. This is not official yet because he hasn't gotten the plans approved by the Scouts. But what's your plan that you're presenting to them?
So I'm going to be building 6 picnic tables total for St. Mary's for the kids here and stuff like that. To go on the nature trail.
Yeah, 6 picnic tables back in the nature trail.
And some over here.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So picnic tables. Just giving back to St. Mary's. So.
Yeah, what does that have to do with declaring the love of God?
Well, I think it's, like I said, giving back to St. Mary's, and also just making something that's going to be around for a while and last and just provide for St. Mary's.
Yeah, and particularly it benefits the children.
Yeah.
There's playgrounds, but there's nothing that's big and that's outside that's definably for the kids. I think that's a really cool project idea.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, Ellie Blue, what have you taken home in your life from South Dakota in terms of telling people about the love of God or showing the love of God?
Well, I'd say the vacation Bible school that we did.
Yeah.
It was just different from like the ones we do here, because we normally have like all these different things that the kids do inside, but when we were there, we had to like come up with games and like bubbles and then Foursquare and stuff like that. So like we had to make a lot of the stuff for the kids to like play with, and so it was fun just to like be able to do that and like play with them and stuff. So.
And figure out how to do it on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, Jack, what about you?
Well, I thought the community, again, is extremely poor, but when we drove around the community and saw all, like, the trailers that they were living in, and there was plywood on windows, there was, like, meth or heroin.
Yeah, meth. There was a lot of methamphetamine.
meth epidemic going on, and you just saw the issues that they had, and that just broadened my, perspective of the hardships that people go through and how privileged we are to have the things that we have. And also we learned a lot of cultural lessons when we were there, and how, the story behind, or Mother Lauren?
Yeah, Mother Lauren.
Mother Lauren's view on Mount Rushmore, and how, because she told us that Mount Rushmore was looking over the reservation land, so it was like the United States and founding fathers were just watching everything that they did and controlling them. So I think that was a very touching thing that you said.
Yeah. Learning about Mount Rushmore from the perspective of the Native Americans was far out. Yeah. All right, we've got time for a couple of questions from the audience. We got a question back there, Mary Williams.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the Native Americans. I understand, and you can verify if I am correct, that while the Native Americans do not like Mount Rushmore at all, because it was built on their reservation,
Yes.
their land, and it is our presidents looking down, as you said, on them and ruling them, and they are very much disheartened by how they us take over their reservations. Is that what you learned?
Yes, that is exactly what we learned. So Mount Rushmore is built in the Black Hills, which initially was part of the Lakota Reservation. When gold was found, the United States sort of reclaimed some of that land, and on it built this great monument to some of our greatest presidents, all of whom have some particularly painful acts that they have done to the Native American community. So it is on their land. It is people who have harmed their people, and they just sort of look over their conquered subjects. That's their perspective on why Mount Rushmore is a painful monument. Yeah. All right, Seth.
What in particular will you all be doing in California?
So California is going to be actually a perfect example of this, declaring the love of God and having the love of God declared to us. So we're going to be spending the first 3 days in LA County and Santa Barbara County doing relief work for the wildfires and mudslides. And exactly what that'll look like, we'll find out probably in a month or so, as it's closer to the time and we know what needs to be done. After those first 3 days, we're switching from mission trip to pilgrimage, and we'll be driving up the coast and going to old California mission churches and using those as a reflection time to see the past of our faith and the future of our faith. So it really is an express combination of declaring God's love and having God's love declared to us. Patricia.
I'm sorry, I'm setting you up. I was at dinner last night with the people that lived in Lower Town.
Okay.
And their idea was that they did not like the Democratic Party because they gave all the money that they earned to people that didn't deserve it. They didn't have, and that made all the hairs on my neck stand up. But seeing what you've seen and where you've been with your, how do you feel about that?
Ooh, that is a question that I am sure I can't get in trouble for answering. Is that right? Oh, no, wait. Okay. So,
It doesn't matter what.
yeah, let's do, is Andrew still in here? So I'm on my own. Would you guys like to take a stab at that one, or do you want me to handle it? Addison, you can go for it. Jack? We're going to try. These guys, for the record, are speaking for themselves, and if I answer, I am speaking for myself, not for St. Mary's.
Well, I think in South Dakota, or at least on the reservation, they have very little opportunities for schooling and getting ahead of their circumstances or their setbacks. So I mean, I think that the little help that they can get, because they're really not getting much help from the government or anything, because I I mean, some of them can't afford to like heat their homes throughout the winter, and they all have to do it through wood fires. And the church, or the mission there.
Yeah, the
they've been-
church.
Yeah, well, yeah, so they've been giving away firewood each year, and since they've been doing that, like, nobody has frozen to death, which is like something that like is sad, but like, I mean, good that it's not happening anymore. And so, I mean, while we were there, we were actually splitting firewood to help people, and I mean, splitting firewood was really hard because the only wood that they have there is, I mean, it burns hot, but it's really hard to split. So just a struggle for that. Yeah, so I think they need all the help they can get to just have better opportunities where like then they can go and just thrive.
I think that, and this involves no policy prescriptions or endorsements of any political party. When you, just put that on the record, when you find yourself immersed in a community that really does have desperate poverty, you begin to realize that there are some systemic traps that keep people where they are. And whether more and more government aid is the best way to deal with that problem or not, you realize that there is a need for people who are stuck in impoverished situations to be helped out of those situations. And you at least develop a sympathy and an understanding for the fact that most people aren't choosing to be living at the lowest financial level that they can. And most people aren't choosing to be stuck on welfare. People want more. And you begin to see that when you can actually spend time looking people in the eyes and looking at why they struggle and why they have so few opportunities to break free from their situation. But again, that's not an endorsement of any political ideology, just a statement of fact. And I think that's all we've got. We've got a horse outside, and Addison and I have got to go get ready to read the Passion reading. Can we have a round of applause for Ellen Blue Jack and